So we are live. Welcome to another episode of the Greatness Engineering Hour, the show where we bring you people with amazing stories of triumph, and people who have knowledge to share, knowledge that they want us to use, to help people around us and to engineer greatness wherever it matters. And today, I bring you a champion and a winner because our guest went through so much, but like you will realize, there's always hope, and it's never, it's never the end. Until if you're still alive, there's always something that you can go after, and you really have to stand up for yourself to make sure that you get back to something that you want to do and something that you want to help people with. So today we're going again to the US, and our guest today is Charmaine Carter. She's the CEO of Carter Entertainment, and it's an organization committed to promoting awareness of the effects of emotional, physical, sexual abuse, and they're doing it by educating community primarily through various media format and speaking engagement. She also the CEO, founder, and owner and president of Survivors of Lion's Den, designed to serve against survivors of abuse. She is herself a survivor of molestation, rape, domestic violence, drug. But as you see, she's standing here with us. So there's a life after abuse, and she has published books. One called Black Family Lives, and she is working on a documentary based on this book. And the other book that she wrote is Terrace Murder. She's an actor, a screenwriter, and a producer. And she started acting in 2016 and got a role as an extra on the highly acclaimed TV show Greenleaf. So she's going to tell us a bit, about it. But one of the focus of the show is going to be her own experience, based on her own experience, and really focusing on the long-term effect of child abuse. So without further, making you wait, we're going to bring Charmaine, and please, come in and participate, because, we bring those champions, those winners, those people with, unbelievable stories for you to learn from them, for you to build on their experience, so that, you can either educate people around you and help them, or help yourself if you are in a similar situation. So let's start and have a great conversation with Charmaine today.
But as I got older, I started to be more aware of some of the abusive sides of
Good morning, Charmaine. Welcome to the Greatness Engineering Hour show. It's such a pleasure to have you on on this platform where we really, learn from all the champions and the winners of life, that we bring today. And again, I think people are gonna, discover who you are and understand, the champion that you are after, they know what you've conquered. And so just to start the conversation, can you introduce yourself and tell us who you are and, help us to understand the key milestone in your journey?
Sure. So as you said, my name is Charmaine Carter, and let's see, I'm a survivor of child abuse. I grew up in a very dysfunctional family. Writing was my passion. Ever since I was a kid, I tried to write on anything I can get my hands on, notebooks, paper towels, toilet paper, anything I could get my hands on to try to deal with the abuse that was going on. It was my outlet. It really helped out a lot. And ended up what happened is I took that channel and I started writing small books, autobiography, Black Family Lives, based on the abuse I suffered. And then I also I took a turn. I did a nonprofit called Survivors of the Lion's Den, which helped out other people. After I got help myself, I actually had to go through a lot of stuff. I went through drug addiction, alcoholism, and then when I got help, counseling, rehab, that kind of thing. Like I said, I wrote my book, and then I decided to turn and realize a lot of people are using media to tell their stories, and a lot of kids, they don't read books anymore. They, go on the YouTube or they go on the internet. So I changed my focus to get to the people who are really still suffering, and did small films, and now I'm doing a documentary talking about the abuse and stuff that I suffered.
So yeah, so it's actually a key, issue right now, child abuse, and I understand that you've been doing a lot of work in that arena. But if we want to, just want to step back and build on your experience, what have been your key experience in a way? I mean, the most difficult experiences, and how did you manage? Obviously, you mentioned that you resort to writing, but what was the process? I mean, in terms of your thought process and the strategy that you've been using to be able to get out of it, because it's quite it's quite a lot, from going from abuse, rape, and all the dysfunction that you went through.
So let's see. When I was a child, I was molested by my babysitter when I was about 6 years old. My mom and my father got divorced when I was about 5. So when I was 6 years old, being a child and not having a male father figure in the household, I tended to cling on to this older boy, but I was only 6, so. But he was a father figure. He told me how much he loved me and how beautiful I was and all this kind of stuff. And what ended up happening is I attached myself to him, thinking that he was a father type figure, because the hugs and loves and telling me how beautiful I was. Like I said, he raped me, molested me when I was 6, and my mother's reaction to that was unusual. Her reaction to it, at me telling me at the age of 6, was, okay, so yeah, it happened. Okay, that was yesterday. This is today, and so I want you just to move forward. As if there was a switch that I could cut off and just move forward at the age of 6. And I didn't understand why she just assumed that I could just cut it off and move. I found out that my family is a cycle of dysfunction. There are a lot of people my family was abused, and then therefore in turn, became abusive themselves. So she was told to move on when she was abused, as if nothing had happened, and she wanted me to do that. But at age 6, that was not happening. So I was told not to talk about it. That was yesterday. That was a bad thing. Don't talk about it. So I had to find some way of getting it out. So I and because I kept having nightmares because of what happened, I started writing stuff down so I wouldn't forget, what actually happened to me, because she made me feel like as time went on that it was just a bad dream and that it never really happened. And it became a pattern. When I was about 12 or 13 years old, my cousins and my brother gang raped me.
Wow.
And the only reason why they even got that idea in their head was because one of my cousins, his father, watched porno with him. And he was watching gang rape porno with his 12, 11-year-old son. And he thought that was normal. So my cousins watched that and assumed that they were going to do the same thing they did on the movie because, nobody was hurt on the movie. So they did that to me.
Wow.
Because of the cycle, the atmosphere of dysfunction in my family. This was normal. This was yesterday and this is today. And so I kept feeling trapped. And when I finally told my family, my mom and my aunt, what had just happened to me, my mom said something that literally shattered my little 12-year-old mind and put me on a dark path. It took me a long time to get off. My mom told me, well, not told me, but told my aunt that Charmaine always had an overactive imagination.
Whoa. That's just hard. And that's why I'm asking, how do you cope with that as a 13 years old? So there's already the event of the 6 years old where you get raped by your stepdad.
No, it's my babysitter. It was my babysitter.
Your babysitter.
Yeah, my babysitter.
And then, you get raped by your own blood, your brother and your uncle and your cousin, and you still have to process all of this. And that's why I'm really curious. How did you really, handle this?
At the age of 13, when that happened, my cousins, it was like two cousins and my brother, so it was three of them. They actually got away with it. And so once they realized they got away with it, they figured they can do it anytime they want to because no one would believe me now. I've been set up as the liar of the family, so no one would believe me. So my own brother kept on raping me. Anytime we were alone, my mom has watched, going to work, or we would a couple hours before she came home, my brother would rape me. And so what ended up happening is 13-year-old Charmaine split. I actually had like an alter personality I called Tigra, who kind of protected me from dealing with the abuse. And so what ended up happening is, so to answer your question of how did I deal with it, I literally created this persona of somebody who was overly sexed and just loved sex all the time. So you don't have to rape me. I'll just give it to you. So that way I didn't have to deal with the trauma of my own brother and my cousins trying to rape me, my teenage years. So that's how I dealt with it. I created this persona that loved sex. I was just sex crazy person kind of thing. And it worked for a while. I kept trying to write to get the emotions out, because I wasn't allowed, because it was my own brother and no one would believe me. My mother kept telling me, stop being frisky, or, so she kept blaming me for the rapes and for the abuse. And so since she kept blaming me for that, I had to keep writing down on paper. I had a notebook, the diary. I wrote in the diary of the stuff that happened to me, the real version, not the version that my mom kept trying to make me believe was going on, but the real version. And my mom told me that if I ever became a writer, I would starve to death.
Because she knew
Right.
that by writing it's the truth will come out, and that's something that we've always seen, is that, you know, there's in family those type of event, they try to bury everything because
Yes.
it's like family secret, and if you try to bring them out, then everybody comes against you.
Yes.
And it becomes very difficult to really get out of this generational
Yes.
dysfunction, because I
Yes.
think in this case it's a generational dysfunction.
It
That
actually is, because when I found out later on, when I was actually trying to write the book, I talked to one of my aunts who is like the black sheep of the family kind of thing, and she told me that her stepfather had raped and molested my mom, my oldest aunt, and even one of her brothers. And then when the brother got old enough, the stepfather made him molest one of his sisters. And so this is the atmosphere they grew up in. And my grandmother, you know, just kept trying to, because she had 7 kids. She just wanted a man to help take care of the kids and help, you know, provide for the family. And so she just pretended like all this other stuff wasn't happening, just so he would stay and help her take care of her 7 kids.
So she basically it was a transaction, really, you know, giving her kids to him in exchange of basically material and money.
Right. Yeah.
Which
I mean,
is just unbelievable, especially.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you. You know, and so, like I said, this is a generational thing. It happened to them. They did it to me. My uncle, I remember, like I said, it was around the age of 12 or 13. My uncle, because I grew breast overnight. At one minute, I was a flat-chested tomboy. And when I hit like 12, 13 years old, I grew big girls. And I remember Thanksgiving coming into the house, and my uncle was drinking, and he asked me to give him a hug, so I gave him a hug. You know, this is my uncle. Been giving him hugs all my life. He grabbed both of my breasts and said, "Girl, you got some big boobs just like your mama." And I'm sitting there going, "Mom,
what?"
Uncle so-and-so just grabbed my boobs. And so, you know, they basically said, "Oh, he's just drunk. Don't pay him any attention. He's just drunk. You need to stop playing with the little girl like that. You need to stop playing with her." And I'm sitting there going, "What just happened?" And so my aunt comes in and she hits him on his shoulder and says, "Stop playing." And he grabs her butt and said, "Well, you still got the biggest country ass in the family." And I'm looking like, okay, these people are not going to help me with any of this. Because this is normal.
And yet, so how did you come out of it, you know, before we kind of look at the long-term impact?
Right.
How did you realize that, you know, it's about time for me to find an exit, basically, because this is too dysfunctional, and in a way it was a matter of life or death, because even if you're alive and you live into it, you're dead inside. So when did you realize it, and how did you exit this dysfunctional environment?
I would love to say that, you know, I just, you know, grew up and one day. And so what happened with me is I really didn't exit this dysfunction like talking about. What happened was I grew older, and as I grew older, my brother made the mistake of trying to pretend to be you know, a player kind of thing by telling some of my friends and some guys that he knew that he had already had sex before with his sister. And because our family, this was normal, when he told other people outside the family, they looked at him like he was a pervert. Because that was a wrong thing to do. You don't have sex with your sister. That's just gross. And once he realized that, and that he couldn't take it back, people were like, "Oh man, I can't believe he had sex with his sister. We don't want to talk to him." He then turned violent because he couldn't do the thing. He couldn't rape me anymore without people finding out, because he opened his mouth and opened the door. So then he started beating me up, physically beating me up. And so what happened was I went to college. I got out the house. I applied to college. I focused on my education so I could get the heck out of Dodge. I went to college and I got free for a while from the abuse, and ended up getting date raped in college because I kept attracting these abusive people because I was growing up in that kind of thing. So finally, what ended up happening is, got out of college, got a kid, left the house with my child, and started doing drugs. I couldn't handle because my family had always told me I'd always made this up. Remember, I had an overactive imagination. So by the time I hit 30 years old, I had suppressed all those memories, not thinking about them anymore, not talking about it. And when I hit 30, the memories came back like flashbacks. I couldn't handle it, so I started doing drugs. When I got to rehab, that's when they helped me deal with what happened to me. Because rehab told me that this was not something that I made up. This actually did happen. And that was the reason why I started doing drugs, because I couldn't deal with the memories of something that actually, truly happened. He said, because if it was a nightmare or just a dream, you wouldn't have the same exact dream day after day after day after day, 365 days a year. It wouldn't happen that way. Just by odds of things, it would have changed a different dream. So they made me realize that this was a reality, that this actually happened to me, and they helped me work through the process. Journaling was the way they helped me work through the process. So I got to pick up pen and paper again to get the emotions out and then get the memories out.
Wow, what a story. It's just unbelievable that we have you standing here and being able to to talk to us, because it's really a dysfunction that could actually kill you altogether. And that's crazy. So let's have a break, and we'll come back to this discussion. And for those who are joining us, or those who are going to join us later, our guest today is Charmaine Carter, and we're talking about abuse and all kind of abuse. She's a survivor herself, and the intention is to focus more on the long-term effect of abuse on children. We're gonna be back, but don't go anywhere, and let's have a small break.
Children who experience abuse find it difficult to develop healthy relationships as adults. In addition, they are more likely to have low self-esteem, deal with excessive fear and anxiety, and act out aggressively towards their peers.
Many studies have shown that children who are abused or neglected are at higher risk for heart, lung, and liver diseases, obesity, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, anxiety, smoking, alcoholism, and drug abuse. If a child is abused at a young age, it can dramatically affect the development of the cortex, which is the part of the brain responsible for memory, attention, thinking, and language.
You could see what the brain of a traumatized or neglected child versus a typically developing child looks like. Some of the key structures of the brain actually have a different size.
So, I mean, it was a very short video. So have you experienced any of these, growing up? Obviously, you talked about the drug part, but any other issue mentally or physically, because there's also a physical effect on that.
So to answer your question, yes. And actually, I didn't realize until I was writing my book and doing research, because once I realized that all this was real, I went to go get more information about why, because I wanted to know why. Why did they do this? Why? I found out in my research that my brother and I both have been abused in different ways, and we went the different spectrums. Most children who abuse either become abusers or become victims. They end up. My brother became the outward person. He was always getting into fights. He was always, hated authority. He had severe migraines in the back of his head for most of his life. He would get into rages where he would literally black out and, cause all kinds of damage. And then 10 minutes later, he wouldn't remember doing any of that. Me, on the other hand, my physical thing was I beat myself. I internalized everything because I was told everything was my fault. So I ended up with high blood pressure, high cholesterol. I ended up with low self-esteem issues, the weight gain, the trying to make myself look as unappealing as possible so that I wouldn't get raped again. So the low self-esteem and the obesity issues kind of go hand in hand with what I went through, because my whole thought was if I'm plain looking, if I'm unattractive, then no one would come after me. If I have all these issues, everybody would leave me alone. And unfortunately, none of that worked.
They would actually, and what do you think, because it's like you said, you would do everything to become unattractive, you would go away, but you still had, this attraction, the wrong people coming to you. And, in your research, obviously, I think now it's probably not the case, but in your research, what did you find that actually helped you to stop this curse, basically, I would say, because it's just, following you everywhere. It's like a curse, It
is. And then what I did, or what I found out when I was doing my research, as I was saying, is the fact that it was a generational curse, or generational mindset, if you will. I'm a very spiritual person. That helped me out a lot. I believe that my family was like the Israelites, still stuck in the wrong mind thought frame, still acting like you're trapped when you're not really. So what I ended up doing was I had to, and you can't see this, but I have it on my wall. I actually have inspirational words on my wall that I have taped on my wall to actually remind myself that I am a worthwhile person, that I am, God ordained, that God didn't make a mistake, that all this happened for me to help other people. I have to keep reminding myself of these things, not because I have low self-esteem anymore, but because the mindset, once it's in your head, you have to fight it sometimes on a daily basis to not go back to that way of thinking, because you've been thinking that way for umpteen years.
Yeah. So, and that's the key thing, isn't it? And in a way, this generational curse was actually due to a lack of knowledge, basically, a lack of education, because your family could have gotten rid of it if they had taken the same step as you, try to understand what it is, what was the problem. And now, come to realize that positive affirmation, faith in God, and believing in yourself was actually the key to that. So that's key. But then, obviously, those were very painful years. So what did you do to use this experience for a positive outcome, basically? Because I can see that now things are really you are in a good space. And so how did this experience help you to get where you are in this positive space?
So two ex-boyfriends actually pushed me in the right direction. So I had a boyfriend who actually beat me up till I was coughing up blood.
Wow.
He knew my whole backstory. I had met him when I was doing drugs, and it was a horrible time. And I was going through all this, like you said, the hard years. I was going through all this process of pain and rebirth and breaking and re-breaking and remolding. He told me in the middle of all this chaos, he said, but Charmaine, if you went through all this abuse you went through, and you don't help anybody else, then you went through all of it for nothing. And that's the only good thing I got out of that relationship. That one statement that he made, that one moment of clarity, I'm assuming it was God ordained, stuck with me. Because I believe that, yes, I went through all this, but if I don't help somebody else, then what was it going? Why did I go through all this for? I was meant to help somebody else. So he helped me move forward and, and turn to a different direction and start trying to help out other people who have been abused like I was. And that changed me around. And then I had, in the last, 5 years, I had another boyfriend who, we broke up after being together on and off for 10 years, very dysfunctional, not abusive, just dysfunctional. And he told me that I was a drama queen, that, I always was a little over the top. I didn't believe him, so I applied for an acting gig, knowing that I wouldn't get it, because, I'm not drama queen, and got the gig.
Wow, good.
He got the gig, and that's how I ended up on Greenleaf, because I did it and got the gig, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm a drama queen. But I realized that I wasn't a drama queen. I had years and years of experience of actually being physically, emotionally, and sexually abused that I actually could tap into. So when it came to a scene that dealt with an abusive person or whatever, I could feel that emotion because I've been through it.
It was real for you. It was not acting, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. It was real. And then I realized, well, if I can tap into that emotion and play a role that way, well, why can't I make a program or movie or show to show those same emotions? Because if I'm acting, or quote unquote acting, and you can feel it because I'm feeling it, then I can make these same things and show people how it feels to be trapped in these situations.
Yeah. So that's key, because sometimes, the only way you can actually help other people is for you to go through the experience and then pass it on. And it's very important to pass it on. And I really admire your courage to come and share your story, because these are really intimate and very hard moments that, you had to deal with. But then the strength came out, the faith, I think it's been very, very strong. And also regaining, confidence in yourself, because sometimes we want to find the solution outside of us, that yet it's inside of us. And when we realize that it's inside and it's between us and God, then things start to change. And we change the narrative, because in a way it's an energy thing. So we start to attract the right energy, the right people around us, and the rest become basically history, even if it's always present. But yet, just talking about that, have you end up again being triggered? What are the triggers that you have? Yes, you have it in a safe space, but are you in a way completely immune, or you still have triggers that comes once in a while?
So actually, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I'm writing the script for the Black Family Lies, based on my book. And this week, I was actually dealing with the gang rape scene of my cousins and my brothers gang raping me. And, that happened when I was 13 years old. I'm 51 now. It's been years, but when I was sitting there in front of the computer trying to rewrite the scene, I ended up in tears. Because me being, now a producer, I actually can visualize what happened, not only from my point of view, but just for the whole actual scene. I could see it in my head again, replaying it all over again. And I felt so sorry for not only the 12, 13-year-old Charmaine, but I felt sorry for any actress who I was going to have to get to play that role. And so all these emotions came back, and what I want to say, I was more upset with the betrayal than I was with the actual rape when I, now when I was going back over it, because my brother, my cousins is one thing, but my brother, my younger brother that my mom had told me from the time I was 6 years old that I have to look out for my brother because, I'm older now, so I have to protect my little brother. My brother's only about a year and some change younger than me, but still, I had to protect my younger brother. And so from the time I was 6 years old to 12, 13 years old, I was protecting my little brother from the whole world and from the bad guys and all this kind of stuff. And we always told each other we had each other's back because I always had his. And then for him to go there and rape me, hold me down and rape me. And I'm begging for his help, and he's just staring in there, just looking at me like, no. That, even now, I'm trying not to get emotional, but even now, that betrayal, that I thought me and you against the world kind of thing made me just, I teared up, I got emotional. This was just yesterday because even though I've forgiven my brother for everything he's done and my whole entire family, that betrayal still stings,
It's hard, and that's why I don't even know how you do that, to open up to all of this. And but I assume for you it's probably also therapy in a way, because you get it out of your mind. Yes, you're reliving it, but you get it out of your mind, and you become because you probably feel very heavy, and then when you get this out, then it kind of lighten a lot of things, and you feel better, and probably even in your health as well is improving as a result of that. I don't know.
And honestly, and that's the thing when we're talking about long-term effects of child abuse. That's the thing. When you have long-term effects, you can deal with when I was in my 30s. When I was in my 30s, I dealt with what actually happened, talk to the therapist, write it down, that kind of thing. In my 40s, I had to deal with letting go of the anger, the pain, all that stuff. Now I'm in my 50s, and even though that happened 10 years ago, I'm now getting to a different level of dealing with the pain of what happened to me. And it's like as soon as you think you've gotten completely over it, you realize there's another level that still deals with it. So yes, I got rid of, I've forgiven everybody. I've gotten rid of, forgiven for the pain and the rape, all that kind of stuff. But the betrayal, because even to this day, my brother still states that nothing ever happened. My brother is still saying that he never attacked me. He never raped me. My cousins still say they never attacked me. They never raped me. And actually, when I wrote the book, one of my cousins was married. His wife read the book. She confronted him. He denied it emphatically. They ended up getting divorced because she had been abused herself, and she knew that it was real.
Yeah. So that's the thing, is that when you have all this secrecy in the family, and it's hard for you to come out, and especially when everybody's pointing fingers at you.
Yes.
And so you start, and I think, I don't know, but what I suspect is that you start to think like you are the awkward one, and it becomes really a battle between it's actually yourself between yourself, because you're alone.
Yeah, and honestly, I actually tried to kill myself about 5 different times. I tried suicide attempts 5 different times because I thought I was crazy. Because I'm sitting there going, my family is telling me I made all this stuff up, and I'm like, why would I make up so much tragedy in my life? Why would I create this kind of world? I've got to be nuts to create this kind of pain for myself, for me to live through. And you're right, it's a battle between what is actually real and what somebody actually is telling you is real.
Especially when you're still young, because you have no notion. This is your world. You have no other checking point. So it becomes, okay, maybe I'm the one who actually crazy here. They are the normal people, and I'm the one awkward. Yes. And it can really be destructive, like you said, not thinking about, suicide or any crazy thing that we can think about. So it's really, I actually, it's a good testimony for a lot of people to understand that there's life, after the abuse, because, with all of these, all the things that you just talked about since we started this conversation, I mean, nobody would have bet that you would be, like you said, you were thinking about suicide or drug, you went into drug. Nobody would have thought that you would come really, out of all of this. So that's really the big part. So let's have another break and make sure that, we digest all of this, because I think
it's a lot, I know.
Even for me, it's like, it's, I don't even know where to start, because it's just so heavy. And like I said, I'm just in admiration right now.
Thank you.
Sexually abused children are at greater risk for psychological, emotional, social, and physical problems, often lasting into adulthood.
Mental health issues, trauma, PTSD, depression, anxiety, substance abuse, diminished self-esteem, difficulty managing emotions,
eating disorders, children becoming delinquent.
I drank every day. And so it's really hard to be a junior in high school drinking every day and function.
I started getting sick all the time. I started having weird headaches.
At the age of 16, I became a teenage mom without any resources to provide for myself. I could not provide for my daughter. I sent her to stay with her father, and I was devastated because I felt that not only did my mom not raise me, now I am repeating that.
I had to be an Olympian. I had to be a 3-time medalist in order to stand in a room full of people and feel like I had value.
And, when I look back too, I think I kind of went through a lot of women too, just to always prove for myself, my sexuality and things like that.
So for me, that was my coping mechanism, to emotionally shut down and just expect the worst from everybody.
It took me 10 years to figure out that sex is not just something you do. Sex is a special bond. And somebody just took that from me.
So yes, so it's I mean, like we've seen in the video, there's different mechanism that people use, different methodologies, strategies, but in a way, having lived in an environment where you've never actually had love, you didn't know what was love. how did you discover love? Because if you ever discover it, because like this lady was saying, love is the sex is part of love, is a special bond. And yet, you've been basically, you never had it, this bond that you everybody is looking for. So how did you reverse the course?
So I found out what real love was. Two things. One is I had a godmother, God rest her soul, who actually showed me what love was. In fact, to the point where she wasn't really my godmother. I called her my godmother because she showed me love and kindness that my mom never did. She taught me how to love myself. She showed me by example of what real love is without any strings or any conditions. And I learned that from her, and I thank her every day that she's the reason why I still believe in God, because she came into my life when I was a teenager, when I was going through all this turmoil, and that was my only bright hope or light I had in my life. And then I had a son when I was about 21, and I finally understood what that word agape means, unconditional love. I love my son no matter what he does or doesn't do. He loves me no matter what I do or don't do. And I never knew that. It took me a while to actually accept that. My son gave me love from the day he was born, but because of all the stuff that happened to me, it took me a while to even accept that kind of love. And because I didn't think I was worthy of that kind of love. But now, years later, between my godmother, God bless her heart, and my son, I know what real love is. Real love doesn't hurt. Real love doesn't come with conditions and strings and all this stuff attached. They love you because you are you. Now, as far as actual relationships, as far as man and female, I still haven't found that relationship yet where, it's that healthy kind of love. But now I know what I'm looking for thanks to those two people in my life.
Wow, that's amazing. And I think sometimes it takes really just few people to really bring this light into your life and give you, this boost that you need to really start to look for the good things and the positive into your life. We have few comments here. So there's Mizo from, she's watching from South Africa. So she's saying, hello, Charmaine, sending my love from South Africa. And we have a student from France, Jean-Baptiste, is saying that, he's doing an academic research about sexual violence against children. And is asking what advice could you give or provide about that? He came a little bit late, so didn't hear the first part. And I think I want to build on his question to ask you, now that you've basically built up yourself, you build up your self-esteem, and you understand, that you had to cut this generational curse, generational mindset. And you now experience love from your son and before from your godmother.
Yes.
What are the advice that you would give to anybody that's going through that, or any parent that have a child going through all those horrific things that you went through?
So first is listen. The biggest thing is you have to listen, regardless of whether you believe it or don't believe it. Listen, people need to get it out. They need to, like you said, get it out their system. Talk about what happened. Second thing, don't make any judgments. Whatever they said, don't give a judgment. Well, I don't think that's right. Or this, just listen, and also show love. They need to know that it's not their fault. I love you regardless of what happened. You can tell me anything. they need to know that love. They need to have that love. And last but not least, get them some kind of counseling or help. I don't care what age you are, you need counseling after a traumatic event has happened. And whether you talk to, the pastor at the church, whether you go to a counselor, a therapist, they need to actually go to a professional because, like I said before, when we were talking about all this, there are multiple levels. And talking to you or just your friend or somebody and they're listening, that helps out a lot because, now somebody believes you. But you need to get that counseling because they can actually help you pull back those layers so that you can actually start dealing with the ramifications of what just happened. And those are the kind of advice that I would give. You must get, and for some reason, in African American families, I'm specifically saying that because I'm an African American, we don't believe in counseling. We don't. We believe in self-medication. We believe in talking to God. We believe in just, we strong, we can handle it. We don't believe in counseling, and it's crippling us. We need to get to counseling because those people actually can tell you or give you suggestions on how to work through it. Some people like me, God helped me out and writing helped me out. Other people are more visual. They need to actually see something. Some people actually need to do something. Helping somebody else out helps them out. But those counselors can actually help you find the right way to help deal with whatever you went through.
And that's worth saying. And I'm originally from Africa. We don't believe in counseling as well.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever happened, they ask you, like your mom was saying, deal with it.
Exactly.
And that's it. You have to strengthen yourself. You have to deal with it. And we have a lot of people who are traumatized, but you see them, you think they are okay, but they are traumatized. And because they don't get this help, they start to be dysfunctional in everything that they do.
Right.
And instead of addressing it, they carry it on from generation to generation. They pass it to the children pass to their children, and it never stops until we get the right the right support, because that's it. We need to cut this and get the right support.
And honestly, not to really cut you off, and that's the reason why I'm doing this movie, because our people, whether it's African or African American, our people of dark skin don't believe in counseling, and so what happens is these people are sitting in silence, suffering in silence. They're either lashing inward in themselves with the drugs and self-mutilation, low self-esteem, or they're lashing out, causing problems, breaking stuff, getting into fights. They're doing these things because they can't deal with what's going on in their head. And I wanted to make this movie so that the people can see that someone has gone through the same thing you've gone through and has come out through the other side of this, which means if God's no respecter of persons, if he can do it for me, then he can help you get through it too and come out on the other side and be the exact creative, God-ordained person he created you to be. But you need to see that. That's why I'm doing this movie, because I can tell you 1,000 times, this is what I did, this is how I went through it, whatever. But if you actually can see it with your own eyes, then it makes sense. Then it sinks in. Then you're like, okay, well, see, she did this, and she did this, and let me see if I can try these things and see if maybe it can help me too.
And it's very important, because if you can see it, you can become it. And that's why, people like you have to come out, talk about their story. And so people, build on that and understand, yes, there's actually a life after abuse if I follow the right steps. And these are the steps that, this lady has. And like you said, I'm going to try, and it should be working for me as well, but let's try. And it gives them hope as well. And, that's the key. And I hope the audience or whoever is going to have the opportunity to watch the replay are going to use that as well to share in their environment, to share, even if they're not themselves into an abusive environment, but, use what you talk about today and maybe connect with you so that they can help people that they know in their environment that are actually going through those abuse and those violence that you went through yourself. So talking about your upcoming movie, you obviously talked about it. It's going to be about your story, but can you tell us when you think it's going to be ready and what's needed in a way? Because, so that, any support that you get from, how is it going?
So I'm trying to get, the movie is coming out next year. I'm going to come hell or high water, excuse my language, the movie is coming out next year.
Yes.
The only thing that's been slowing me up, of course, is the coronavirus. So,
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah.
I have to change things around and make adjustments in my production because, the coronavirus, got to make sure people stay safe, not only for the actual stuff I'm filming, but because of the coronavirus. So it's coming out next year. What I need two things. I need support because I'm getting support from some people and not from others. I need support because I really think that this is going to help out a lot of people. I really truly do. And unfortunately, with the coronavirus, I'm also, like I said, in the domestic violence field. I've joined organizations, to stop child abuse. Virginia Action Alliance, which deals with domestic violence in the state of Virginia. I've checked out the numbers. Because of the coronavirus, domestic violence, molestation, all those things are going higher. They're going back up on the rise because people are trapped inside the house with their abusers. So I need to have this go out. So I need support. And I'm also trying to raise funds to actually produce the movie. I'm in the pre-production phase. And anything that you can help out, I have a GoFundMe page to actually raise. I'm trying to raise $5,000 to at least do the trailer, and then raise the rest of the money. But anything that you can help to donate would be appreciated, so I can get the word out. We really need more programs, more movies that talks about these kinds of stuff, because we need to help each other. Black Lives Matter. So if Black Lives Matter against the police and Black Lives Matter against bigotry, why don't Black Lives Matter against our own people?
And that's where it starts actually. And I'm always convinced, that everything that's happening outside starts in the family. Yes. If you don't address it in the family, then it becomes a risk to to create something very negative outside of the family. So it's important, like you said, that it's Black Lives Matter. Black family needs to start to have their house in orders before they can actually go and fight, the enemy outside.
And you know what? I think we should make a new hashtag. Instead of saying hashtag Black Lives Matter, how about hashtag Black Family Matters?
Yes.
Yeah. I think that's the new hashtag, Black Family Matters. And I really believe that we should really focus on our families and build up our families so we can build up each other and build up our children. Because if you keep doing this cycle of abuse, all you can have is dysfunctional people. And we already know that the prison is full of a lot of African-American people.
And that's a great message that I think we have to leave the audience with, because sometimes we try to look for the solution outside, but it's inside our house.
Yes.
So we need to find this solution inside of our house, cure our families, and then we can go outside, expand, and bring this, whatever medicine or whatever we call it, outside to solve problems outside.
Yes,
and that's only that's the best way, I would say, to address that. And as a human being, it starts with us as well. It starts with us to really take control of our lives and understand that we have the power. We have the power to position ourselves, whatever challenges we have around us. And you've shown that through your journey, whatever challenges that we have the power to get out of it and give, take another turn. If we took the wrong turn, take another turn and go, and get back to the right track with faith. And,
Yes.
And that's very important. So, unfortunately, we only have 1 hour. I would, this conversation is just amazing. And so I just wanted to ask you, what is, the last word that you want to leave us with, in terms of, looking at what you went through, how you managed to get out of it, helping people now. So what's next? I mean, what is the key thing that you want us to remember from this conversation?
Honestly, the key thing I want us to remove from this conversation is basically what you have up on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
Black family matters. And it really, truly does. We need to start healing the abuse and the pain that's inside the family, the individual people inside the family. And that way we can then help out the community, the society. But if we are broken people and we go out and try to help other people and we're still broken, that's not helping anybody. We need to fix ourselves, or in the family, help fix the family, and then spread out and try to go to society and the community. Because all ends up happening is you're just putting a patch job over a brokenness. You understand? Yeah.
Yeah, so that's strong. So make sure whoever is listening, make sure you take care of your family, you address the challenges, the problems, and the generational, bondages that you carry in your family before you can, even think about solving problem outside of your family, because otherwise, it's going to destroy you. And you might look, healthy and alive, but inside you're completely dead. So you need to address that. You need to make sure that your family environment is safe, and then you're going to create a safe environment for your community, a safe environment for your country, and a safe environment for the world. So that's a beautiful, beautiful message. And I really thank you, Charmaine, for getting to come, here and share this very, very inspiring journey in a way, from a deeply wounded young child to a very, a person that is now engendering greatness in using her own talents and her own greatness to help others and to make the world a better place in a way. And that's very important. We need people like that. We need people like that to really come in and share their stories. Like you said, if other people who are actually going through those challenges can see it, they will try to replicate. And in a way, it's already a good win for all of us. So how do people can connect with you especially if they want to help with your GoFunding or your movie, or have more information on the movie, or even just to help with the work that you are doing, supporting people who are being abused and suffering from violence in their families?
So to get in contact with me, I have my own webpage called blackfamiliesmatter.com. I'm also on Facebook. Also, www.facebook.com/BlackLives. And as far as helping out others, Stop Child Abuse Now is a great website that you can go on to actually get information for anybody who's still being abused, or to try to help out for people who have been abused, and donate. I would love your support, but if you can't support me, please support Stop Child Abuse Now.
Okay. All right. So thank you so much. Like I said, It's been really a beautiful, a beautiful evening for me before going to sleep, and to have all those information and understand that on the other side of the world they have big winners and people who actually triumph from great challenges that nobody thought that they would get out of. So it's really important to know. So before we leave, we have another show tomorrow. So tomorrow we're going back to India, and this time we're going to have as a guest Paramila. Paramila is into diet, so she has an interesting path. She's doing research at the same time, and she's also in using her research trying to find the right diet for all of us. And she has an amazing story. She married to a superstar of Bollywood, and what she's been trying to do is really, find her own path instead of being in the shadow of her husband, who's been, I think he's been in 150 movies in Bollywood. And now, directing a lot of the Bollywood movies. So it's going to be very interesting, especially for you, Charmaine, being in the film industry as well. So that's a good show to watch, or if you can't, then go for the replay. We also, my organization is also doing a series of shows about gender-based violence and femicide. Because we've seen, like you said, the numbers going up since the pandemic, since we've been in lockdown with the pandemic, especially in countries like South Africa and also the US as well, and in Latin America as well. So we thought that was a good time to use this platform to create awareness and try to get the word out and help, and save life of women, because a lot of lives are being lost, especially in South Africa. Yeah. I think there's like 2 or 3 women that are dead, every day. So it's important to act now and make sure that we don't lose more life in the future. So that's all for today. And it's been, like I said, it's been amazing. Thanks, Charmaine, for your insight, your transparency, and also, bringing hope, on this platform for those who are going through all kind of violence and, issues that they think that they are alone and they can't get out of it. But by listening, your story, and listening to what you've shared in 1 hour, I think it's already a good stimulus and a good way to have hope and know that there's light at the end of the tunnel. Yes, so thank you very much. Thank and for me and for everybody, it's going to be bye-bye, and I hope to see you tomorrow when we have Paramila with us talking about what she's doing in her research and diet in general. Thank you very much. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye. And thanks, Charmaine, again.
Thank you. Bye-bye.